Hello everyone and welcome to my new video. And what is this video about? Well, I thought it was time to explore the note echo. I've seen it sitting there for a while, sort of politely smiling at me as I wander past, but I've never really stopped to try it out and see what it actually does. I kind of made assumptions that it was maybe a note echo. Beyond that, I never really explored it, but now it's time to do that. We're going to do that now. We're going to dive deep into the note echo. So what is the note echo? Let's load it in. You could think of it as kind of a MIDI delay. It doesn't look like it does much, and it's very small. In fact, it's so small it can't even show the whole of the title of the device there, which is kind of cute. But yeah, so think of it as kind of like a MIDI delay. So if you know what a delay is, an echo, that's generally something that we would think of more in audio processing to create repeats, to repeat sounds, to make them echo. This does exactly that, but rather than do it with audio, it does it with MIDI, which is very interesting. The best way to try and wrap our head around it is to just draw in a single note down here, play that clip and see what happens. There we go. So it essentially repeated the MIDI note according to the time specified here. The feedback, if you will, is essentially a decay of velocity. So in normal audio delays, the feedback, depending on how much you feed it back, just means that the echo gets quieter over time. With this, it's exactly the same, but it's the actual velocity of the MIDI note that gets quieter over time, which is kind of interesting because we're not limited to using velocity to be actual velocity in terms of volume. We can use velocity to control other things. We'll get to that later. So let's just explore a little bit more about what's going on here. So we've got different delay times, like that. We could try this one. Or we could try this one. Okay, so that's still going. So that's kind of interesting, but what else can we do? So we've actually got this pitch control here, which means that as the echoes echo, they are going to increase or decrease in pitch according to how many semitones we choose. So if I set this to, say, 3 with a pitch increase of 1 semitone with a feedback of about 50%, let's hear what it does. It's going up in pitch. If we go for like faster times, we get this sort of stuff. We don't have to have the delay time synced. We can have it in milliseconds, which means we can get sort of really fast, things like this. Whoops. And then we get Mario sounds. Okay. We can actually modulate that. That's fun. We'll get to that later. So let's go back to the delay time being synced. And so, as that goes up in a semitone each time, it's not particularly musical, really. So this is when it starts to get interesting, because what we can do with multiple processes and stacking up various instances of this note echo is that we can kind of create things that a standard audio or pitched audio delay wouldn't necessarily be able to achieve. Well, it might be able to do it, but perhaps not quite as in-depth. So if I take an instance of this note echo and group it, go into the group, go into the chains, duplicate the chains, and let's have the top one going for the delay time of 3, increasing by 1 semitone, and then let's have this one go for a delay time of 2, decreasing by a semitone. And let's see what we get. So that's kind of interesting rhythmically, but melodically, it's just chromatic. So let's bring in a scale. Let's just bring in the major scale and plonk that after this effect track of MIDI echoes, note echoes, and see what it sounds like now. Okay. It's just it's sort of Very nice. Okay, but let's try and sort of mangle it a little bit more. I'm going to get a bit more experimental now. I'm going to ungroup that. I'm going to go to the MIDI effects. Oh, I'm already there. I'm going to pull in my favorite, the expression control. And I'm going to use the expression control to just kind of mangle around with the note echo. So this is where it gets really interesting, because the note echo obviously will generate new MIDI notes. The expression control is going to respond to any kind of MIDI data that comes in. So if I was to, for example, put the expression control before the note echo, and if we looked at, say, this random down here, we're just going to get one event with the first MIDI note that's triggering the whole process. But if I put that after the note echo, it's going to respond to the notes coming from the note echo. So you can see. So we can take that and we can actually sort of feed that back. We can map this back to the note echo and kind of mangle it as it's echoing. So let's do that. Let's start by mapping the random to the delay time and just see what we get with that. Let's put the pitch back to 0. Whoa, okay. So that's a little loud for me. I'm just going to use this velocity plugin to pull the velocity down a little bit on this instrument. Okay, so you can see how it's sort of changing the delay time as it's echoing, which is interesting. Maybe I might set the maximum to 50% so that it just goes around these numbers here. There we go. So we've got like a sort of rhythm that's a little bit inconsistent, which is interesting. So, okay, let's keep going. Why don't we take another random MIDI in source here and map that to the pitch. So each time a new note comes in from the note echo, it's going to not only go back and modulate the delay time, but also the pitch increase or decrease in semitones. Okay, that's good. Oh, that. We got a stuck note there. Okay, I might need to just decrease the voices on this instrument. Let's just set this to 8 voices. Okay. It's like Ableton's trying out a keyboard in a music shop. Okay, let's keep going. Let's actually group this again and take a duplicate and let's map. Let's do the same process but to a second instance so we can have more notes. So let's map to the beat division. Again, I'll just copy the values I did for the first one. And then let's map the random to the pitch. Now we've got 2 instances randomizing in different ways. Okay, this is interesting. Let's take a note length and modulate the note length with another random coming in from the note echoes. Let's change the scale to something more funky. Let's go for, stick the minor blues in there. See if we can sound like Herbie Hancock. Very nice. All right. Okay, that's very good. Okay, I'm gonna... Oh, still going. Okay. Right, I'm just going to mute that now. I'm going to move on to a slightly different process. I'll use... I think I'll use electric again just because it sounds perfectly fine out of the box. So let's bring in another note echo. And this time we won't use the synced delay time. We'll just use the milliseconds delay time. Now I'm actually playing these notes from my push. Be a little bit careful here. So I'm going to, use the velocity plugin again just to sort of keep those velocities not going too high, because this instrument can get quite aggressive if you go in high velocity. Yeah, see, even with a low velocity, that's... Okay. Let's maybe... Okay, let's see if we can maybe modulate... Let's modulate that delay time, the echo time, with just a normal audio LFO. So let's map that to the time. So the time can go as high as a couple of seconds. That's a little bit much. So let's maybe set the maximum value on the LFO to about 10%. We can get these sort of like kind of hammering, sort of trilly hammers. I don't know what you call it. It's just these sort of rippling off the grid kind of. So it's a bit glitchy, but also sort of, you know, like a kind of hammered dulcimer or something. Okay, let's see. Maybe I might generate some chords here. So I might just put a note in there, and then we'll go to our MIDI effects. I'll pull in a scale. Let's just pull in the major scale. Let's put that right at the start, and then let's get the chord. Let's put the chord there. Let's just do some random intervals here, and then let's get the random, put the random at the start, and then we can randomize a new chord, which is going to get quantized or snapped to a major scale. Let's see what that sounds like. A few too many voices, I think. Let's... Oh. Yeah. Let's... If we can just make the notes a little bit longer. Okay, let's also map the same LFO to the note length and see if we can get this thing where as the echo time is longer than the note length is longer, and when it's shorter, the note length is shorter. Let's see if that works. So let's just sort of check what's going on here. That's when that's high, and when that's high, that's fine. Okay, let's maybe try 25% on the maximum there, see what we get now. Oh, okay. Let's go a little bit more. Let's go for like... Yeah. Interesting. Let's go for a different waveform. Let's go for random, increase the smooth. Yeah, okay, well, I need to stop because I'm... Stop now. Stop. Okay. Yeah, I'm easily getting distracted and I need to remember that I'm in mid-video. Okay, so what was the other thing? Oh yeah, the velocity. So let's take a slightly different approach this time, and rather than going for a musical one, let's go for a more textural one. Let's pull in sampler, and I'm just going to go and find something to put into sampler. Okay, so I've loaded in a rather cheesy vocal sample. Yeah! Which is not really the type of thing I would go for, but I got them about 10 years ago and they've always remained pretty useful for demonstrating this sort of stuff. So yeah, let's pull in the note echo again. So in this instance, we're just going to get standard echoes. Like that. But because the feedback of the note echo is actually decreasing the velocity as it echoes, if we've got an instrument where we can use velocity as a modulation source, such as sampler, then we can use that decreasing velocity to modulate something other than volume or velocity. So sampler is going to be really good for this because on the MIDI tab at the end, we've got where we can choose. We've got two destinations for where we can route the velocity to. So if we say go for sample offset, we can effectively use the decaying velocity of the note echo to determine the offset of our sample. So if I increase that to 100 now, and I trigger it and see what happens. Okay, yeah. So you can see that actually it started later on in the sample and then went backwards. So actually, let's invert that. Let's go to -100. So I'm guessing that that will mean that it'll start at this point and then slowly go through the sample as it decreases, as the velocity decreases. Okay, not quite. So let's turn sync off and do it in milliseconds. Okay, this is interesting. Not sure why it's not. Oh, okay. I think it's because it's because of the velocity that's coming in from the note. So I will actually use a fixed velocity of 127. There we go. So now we've got a fixed velocity. I'm triggering this from the push. So now it's going to start right at the beginning of the sample, and then depending on the amount of feedback will determine how much it scrolls through the sample. Okay, it's interesting. Okay, so we're getting into granular territory here, but we might be able to approach this in a way that is perhaps not immediately obvious when you do it with a normal granular synthesizer, depending on what type of modulation sources you have. So that's really rather clicky. So we're going to have to go into our envelope here and maybe fix that a little bit. Let's do a little bit of attack here. I'm going to turn retrigger off so that each new instance of the amp envelope that gets triggered gets allocated its own amp envelope voice. Which means that whilst it is still rather loud, just turn it down a little. We can kind of like get multiple triggerings of the voices to make them a little bit more clouded. Like that, so we can get some interesting things like that. So as we go for like a faster echo time, we get more sort of grainy. But it means that because the time is faster, then the decrease in velocity feedback is going to mean it's going to go faster through. I'm actually confused. Let's just do it and see what happens. So more feedback actually means that it... Oh my... Whoa, what did I just do there? Sorry. Okay, let's... Okay, so let's try... Let's modulate the note echo time again with, let's just use an LFO this time. So we'll map it to the time. We'll say a minimum of 1 and a maximum of, say, 25%. Let's turn the rate down pretty slowly. Let's see what happens. That's that. What was that? That's... Sorry, it's suddenly turned into sex music. Okay, let's try increasing the pitch. Oh my God, what's just happened? Wow. So that kind of is like your sort of classic eventide pitch echo, but it's not really an audio echo. It's happening with the MIDI. In fact, we can even look at that. If we create a new MIDI track here and we route the MIDI output from this channel into this one, we can actually capture the MIDI and look at what it's doing. So let's say, we want our MIDI input from track 3, where our sample is right now. We want to make sure that we go post effects. I don't think we need to monitor it. I'll just hit record, fire off a clip here, and then press something here and see what happens. Oh, hang on. Let's set this to monitor. Look at that. What have I... Wow, look at that. What? Whoa, it's like a painting. Look at that. We just painted a picture with MIDI. So you can see that as I've triggered new notes at various pitches, how the MIDI echo has increased those pitches. Look at this stuff. It's brilliant. And I'll tell you what we could do. We could actually take some of these. Why don't we just take like this whole section here and reverse it? Yeah, and then let's take this is fun. It's like Adobe Illustrator with MIDI. Yeah, okay, right. Let's take that now. Let's put that back. Let's put that MIDI clip back into this one and disable these temporarily and see how this sounds. Let's trigger that now and see what happens. There's actually, I remember there's a big gap at the start. Let's just trim that off. Okay, probably going to be quite loud. Just turn that down a little bit. Look at those velocities as well. That's so weird. Okay, this is fun. Right. Let's go back and let's turn these back on. But let's maintain this satisfying, consistent level of mayhem. Let's group this one and duplicate this one and map the LFO to this one as well, but we'll invert the ranges. So we'll map that one to the time, set it to a minimum of 25% and a maximum of 1%. So it's effectively inverted. It's an inverted version of the other one. And then this one will pitch down a semitone instead. See what we get now. Okay, let's record that as well, just for a laugh. Okay, let's have a look at this MIDI. Woo! So we've got some like little worms. MIDI worm. Look at this stuff. All right, yeah, so that's obviously very fun. So it doesn't stop there, of course. You can actually apply this to beats as well. So let's have a look at doing that. I'm going to pull in a sampler or a simpler. Let's just use simpler in this case. And I'm going to load in just a generic drum sound. Okay, so I've loaded in just a generic... Oh, hang on. goodness me. Oh, okay, stop now. We're done with that. So yeah, I've just loaded in like a generic TR-808 snare. So if I was to maybe draw in just like a sort of snare pattern here with maybe a couple of sort of ones that have a bit of probability. Let's pull up the charts. Oh my goodness me. Right, let's pull that down. Let's pull this. How do I even get that one? Oh, there it is. Right, okay. Let's just give these like about 50% chance. Okay, let's fire off that clip, see what we've got. Okay, so again, let's pull in the note echo. So we can obviously use it to make like, you know, repeat like rhythmic repeated ones, or we can go like turn the sync off and go for some like faster repeat times. So we want to make sure that in this instance, we do want to make sure that the velocity is mapped to the volume, which would be here. So let's maybe try like 50%. Let's increase that a little bit and see what we get. Let's turn that filter off. Okay, that's pretty good. So again, let's use the expression control to change the delay, the note echo time, but we're going to put it at the start. So each time that a note comes in from the MIDI clip, it's going to trigger the expression control, which is then going to modulate the note echo time. If we had the expression control after the note echo, that would just be chaos. Try it if you want, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to take the random and I'm going to map that to the time. So each time a new MIDI note comes in, it's going to change the echo time. But I want to be quite careful about the minimum and maximum values because the maximum is 2 seconds. That's too long. So let's just try something small like 15% maximum. See what we get. Okay, even that's too fast. So let's try like 5%. Oh. So we get some sort of drill snares, glitchy drill snares. Yeah. Yeah. That's a little bit like the pitch decay on beat repeat, but this is doing it with MIDI, which is very nice. Okay, so I'm going to put the pitch back to no semitone. So again, we can record that to a new MIDI track. So I'll make a new MIDI track here, and then I'll go to MIDI from, and I'll choose my the MIDI track that's got the snare on it. And then I need to make sure that I'm going post effects, and then I can record that the output of this MIDI process to a new MIDI clip, just as the raw MIDI. Let's watch it do it in real time. Yeah, look at that. That's fine. Okay, so again, if we turn these off now and take that new MIDI clip and put it back onto this track, we'll get the same result. Gosh, that's loud. I've only just seen how loud that is. We'll get the same result, but it's just triggering the raw MIDI, which means that we can do things to edit the MIDI. Like we can move it to like if you're using it in a drum rack, you could use it to move it to a completely different sound. Or we could do things like I was doing a minute ago. We could just like reverse bits. So we can reverse some of these rolls, these little trilly things, and rather than them fade out, they fade back in. So we can just sort of try that here. Let's reverse these bits, see what we get. Yeah. Yeah, decent. that that was going to sound amazing, but it didn't. All right, so that was it. That's the Note Echo. Give it a go. It's powerful. It's pretty powerful. It's kind of like the arpeggiator, really, but the arpeggiator really is only going to be active for as long as you're holding the notes down, whether it's on a keyboard or in MIDI. Whereas with the Note Echo, the note length is kind of redundant. Well, it's not redundant, but like it basically means that you can just fire off a note once and trigger, like ricochet off this massive MIDI process. Whereas like with an arpeggiator, you're going to have to hold those notes down in order for that process to take place. So it's very similar, just slightly different way of instantiating or initiating the MIDI process. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to go and put this on my Patreon now, where you'll be able to download it, plus loads of other things. And there's loads of stuff going on there. Loads of other cool people hanging out. We get together once in a while and chat about music, and it's all loads of fun. And obviously, your support goes towards me creating more things like this. So thank you very much. Have a nice time. See you again. Bye.